Hello guys and welcome back to another tutorial. And this tutorial is going to be about ladder climbing system. So the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to drag and drop my PP master ladder here in the world. As you can see, I have this character here is going to serve as a dummy. So I'm going to double click on this ladder. So the special thing about this ladder is that you can adjust the size of it. So you have the option to choose the footboard spread. So you can type the value here and the letter length. It's current 20, so I'm going to type 100. And you can adjust it anytime you want. The cool thing about this, you can adjust also the football spread, which is really useful depending on what animation you have. You might have different animations of climbing the ladder, and so that's why you need to adjust these values to fit your needs. So I'm going to just attach this to the wall, just make it so that it's close to the wall like this. Well, now I'm going to change some values here, maybe 1000 works. And for the football spread input value, we're going to choose 32.76. All right, if you have another ladder that is not adjustable as this one, you can try it, it's going to work. The only thing that this ladder has is just the ability for you to choose this value here, football spread and ladder length. But you can use your own ladder, it's gonna work as well. So let's go to the ladder blueprint, and as you can see here, I have added 2 collision boxes. I have added one for the start and one for the end. So in your case, you might have a longer ladder, for example, like this one here. So you can place one collision box on the bottom and one at the top. I used these little boxes, little squares, for getting a reference of where the top star location is. Yeah. So I also have I have added dummy, which you can add as well. So if you have a skeletal mesh, you can browse to that asset and drag and drop. It can be like any skeletal mesh, it doesn't matter. So drag and drop it to the ladder blueprint, and you can attach it to the ladder. And as you can see here, it doesn't have any animation, so you can select animation by going to the animation mode and use animation asset, and then you can choose your animation. I'm going to delete this because I already have added here, and it's also using an animation. And I also changed the initial position to 0.7. So this is the position in seconds of where the animation is at, the frame of the animation. And you can also adjust the location and rotation of this mesh. So we're going to use the location and all the information about location, rotation, the translation of this dummy here for inside our character. So we're going to use the information of where this dummy is at. So we're going to place our character in this position. Now, after you added the bottom box and the top one, you can compile, save, and I think we're going to start from the third-person character blueprint. So first I'm going to show you what I have on my blueprint. I just have left some comments here, as always. Yeah, so this is the default code. You don't need to worry about this. If you have it, then that's great. If you have all this default code here, it's great, but generally don't need to worry about this. If you have already a default custom third-person character blueprint setup like this, it's great. If you now go into the animation blueprint, I have the default code, nothing much special. And here I have cast it to my third-person character. You can do this as well for us to be able to get the values and variables from the character blueprint. And here's the footstep sound effects. So I guess we can begin and start the tutorial. The first thing we're gonna do after you created the blueprint of your ladder, which you can do by, maybe let's suppose this is your ladder, and then you can want to create a blueprint out of it, and then you can just right click, go to asset actions, and you're gonna click here on create blueprint using this, and then it's going to create a blueprint with your ladder. And then you can add all those collision boxes as I have added here. So you can go to add and collision, box collision, and then you can add it here. I'm not going to do that because I've already did this. Now we want to get, as I have already spawned my BP master ladder to the world by just drag and drop it to the world like this. I want to get the reference of this ladder here. This is a blueprint. And how I can do it to access the values that is inside of this ladder here. It's very simple. Let's go back to the begin play. And we're going to get the reference of the ladder. So let's get actor of a class and get the master ladder. The same name that you've added here. For in case you have two same names, we can change the name of this BP master ladder here. Let's say 2. And then I'm going to save all. And let's try again. And let's go back here to actor class and let's type ladder or master. It doesn't have to be in the same order. Then you have 2 here. Let's select that. And the return value, we're going to promote it to a variable. So now we can rename this to be BP ladder. It doesn't matter, any name you want. And here you have the reference of the ladder. So you can get all those values like this, get whatever, you know, let's say for example, box. And then you can get all the reference of this BP, of this blueprint. So for starting this code, we want to get information of the character if the character is near the ladder. That is, when the character steps over this box collision here, then we want to tell the character that he is near the ladder. So how we can do that? Let's go to our character blueprint and click on add here, add a new variable. Let's type is near ladder question mark. Compile, save, and we're going to, when we press F, we want to check if the character is near the ladder. And if the condition is true, if the character is near the ladder, then we can attach him to the ladder. How can we know when the character is in the ladder? Well, that's very easy. Let's go to our ladder blueprint, and here the first bottom collision box, start trigger. Let's scroll down. Firstly, you have to click on the box, of course, and then scroll down here. And here on component begin overlap, we're going to add a plus sign here. And this code here is going to be executed every time the player steps on this box collision here. So that means that we can, I don't know, print a string, do whatever here. So we need to make sure that the character that we are, that steps up on this box here is the same character that we are controlling. So to do that, we're going to, after begin play, after this code, you don't need to worry about this code, about just ladder. This is just the code that comes with this ladder blueprint here. So it doesn't matter. But if you want to add these, execute multiple codes on the same node here, you can drag off this and get a sequence. So what's going to do, it's going to execute a series of pins in order. So after it executes this code here first, then it's going to execute the second one. So the second one, I want to cast to third person character player. Let me check the name. Yeah, the name is right. Now out of object, we're going to get player character. Now we're going to promote this to a variable so that we can get the variable, the reference. Now let's say print string and connect this other actor to string. This other actor is our character reference. So when you compile and save and press and play here, I hope it doesn't crash. I think it crashed because I changed the name of the master letter blueprint. And now we're going to print a string, drag out of the other actor, which is going to be our player in this case. Hit save and hit on play here. So as soon as we overlap this box collision, then it's going to show up it's going to show up character copy, but actually I'm going to have to choose my third-person character player. Because I was using a different character blueprint. Now, to make sure it's using your character's blueprint, then you can overlap the box collision. It's going to say the name of your character blueprint. In my case, it's BP third-person character player. Now we can go to our BP third-person character player. Oh, sorry. Now let's go to the ladder, and here we're going to drag off the character reference, get it, and set if this is equal to the other actor, then this is going to be true. Now when you press on play, if we overlap the box collision, this is going to say true. Now if I were to select another character, for example, character copy that I was using before, then if I overlap the box collision, it's going to say false because it's not the same character. All right, and now we're going to go back to to using our player character, and now it's going to work. It's going to say it's true. So that means that it's only going to work for this character here, but you can do many characters as you want, just by adding this node here, equals, and they're good to go. So we're going to duplicate this character reference here, and set is actually going to, set is near letter. Set is near letter. Then we're going to set this to true. That means that every time when the character steps over this box collision here, this is going to be true on the condition of if the character is the same. So I'm going to get a branch. I'm going to delete this print string because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to delete this as well. So drag it to the condition. So every time an actor collides with this box collision, then it's going to check if it's the same character that we're using. And then it's going to turn the variable that is inside of my character blueprint to true, this variable here. And if the value is true, then that means that if we press F, we're going to be able to climb up the ladder. Then what we're going to do, we're going to get the reference of the BP ladder. And we want to set our character to the location of where this dummy is. So remember, you can always adjust the location or rotation of where you want your character to be at. So this is going to be the location. Now we're going to get dummy location. Mine is dummy here because I've named it the skeleton mesh a bit dummy loc. That stands for location. So you can name it to whatever name you like. Now we're going to get world transform. We're going to split this return value here. And now we're going to set world transform of the mesh. I think it's better to grab the capsule component instead of the mesh. And let's split the new transform here. And now let's connect the location Now the rotation, I'm going to split the structure pin. And on the ZR, I'm going to add positive 90 because that's the way it's worked for me. But in case your character gets rotated to the wrong side, you can always change this value here. Now the transform scale to be this. The reason why I added 90 degrees here on the ZR because I think by default the character is rotated at the 90 degrees. For some reason, I don't know why. I think it's the Unreal Engine fault. But here, if you can see, if you click on the mesh of your character, if you go here on the rotation, it says negative 90 for some reason. Because if I let it to be 0, the character is going to be on the wrong side. So that's why I added positive 90 here. So yeah, so the next step, all right, let's actually just test it out to see if it's what's gonna happen. So a lot of people might be curious, well, what's gonna happen if I press F? Then this happens. Nothing is actually happening right now because this is the location of where the character is going to be when he's going to be ready for climb up the ladder. So I'm going to continue the code. I'm going to drag and drop the character movement. I'm going to set the movement mode. I'm going to set it to be flying. That's why when we play our montage, the character is going to be in the air. So for that, we need the character to be flying. So now let's play our montage. And let's drag and drop our character mesh. Now we're going to choose our letters animation. So I have this one. So I've already converted it to a montage. So you can just right click here, create, and create animation montage. Then all you gotta do, you can just select the animation here, and then you can select the montage to play here. Now let's compile, save, press play. Let's see what's gonna happen, or press F. There you go. And as you can see, my character stands on the idle position. After the play montage is played, then the character goes back to the idle position. Because it's just a montage and we don't have nothing on our character's animation blueprint. So it goes back to the idle state. So we want to fix that. We don't want to be on the idle position, standing on the ground on the ladder, right? Does it make sense? Now on the animation graph, we're going to have separate state machines, one for the ladder and one for the default locomotion, which is walk, run, idle, jump, blah, blah, blah. Now we're going to right click here, create a new state. So let's add a new state machine. If you click on here, you're gonna be able to name your state machine. Mine is going to be called ladder loco. That stands for ladder locomotion. And out of this, now what we're gonna do, we wanna be able to switch between state machines. So when our character is on the ladder, then I want to use this state machine here, which is going to contain transitions of animations and states only for the ladder locomotion. So out of this, I'm going to type blend bool, and then you're going to find this option here, the first one, blend poses by bool, and drag and drop to the slot, the result to the slot. And here on the true blend time, I think I'm going to let it to be, I'm going to let these values to be 0. I don't want any blend delays on the transition. I'm going to compile and plug the default locomotion here on the false. And I get a warning because I don't have anything and no animation inside here. So the animation I'm going to use inside this entry here is going to be the first animation that is going to be played after the character, this time here, after the character attaches himself to the letter. So the animation that I'm going to use is this one. It's called a letter idle L. I think L means for, because the left hand is down. So that's why I named it L. So we kind of know which hand the character is going to be positioned, blah, blah. But I'm going to type here a letter idle. Drag and drop it, and double click on this, and make sure the loop animation is checked on, because it's going to be looping, of course, it's a higher animation. And here on the entry, connect to this, and connect back. All right, so I'm going to name this to be letter idle or up. That means that our right hand, the position, that means the position of our right hand is up. So that's why I like to name things like that, my animations like that. So we can be more organized when doing the code. So let's test it out. But the first thing, of course, the crucial thing that we need to do, we need to get the active value. So this value is going to determine when or not we should blend between those poses, when or not we should switch the state machines. So we're going to go to our character's blueprint, and when do we know that our character is attached to the letter? After the animation montage is played, I'm going to add a delay here. And I'm going to add a new variable called start climb letter. I'm going to drag and drop it and set it to be true. And I'm going to access this variable inside our character's animation blueprint. So let's go to the event graph. And here I have already added what I've casted to my character's blueprint. So I'm going to drag off this and say get the same variable name that I've typed here, get start climb ladder. Promote it to a variable and connect it to the isValid. Now we're going to go to our animation graph and drag off the start animate climb, this boolean variable here, to the active value. So by default, of course, this variable is going to be false, and make sure the default value here is false. So when it's false, our character is just doing the normal locomotion states where it's walk, run, idle, jump. And as soon as we attach our character to the letter, then this is going to be true. And we're going to be able to access this value here. So when this value is true, then it's going to switch the state machine to the letter locomotion. So as soon as we grab the letter, the character is going to stay in the idle position when he's grabbing the letter. So that's very cool. Now, what we want to do, we want to block the player from going to the left and right sides, because we have this bug here. If you are attached to the ladder, of course, when you press L, the movement inputs to move the character, that controls the character, how the character behaves, and makes the character walk, run, and jump. They all work. I think the jump doesn't work, only the movement of the keys. So to block the player from doing that, it's pretty easy. First, we need to know if our character is already climbing. I think you can actually change this variable, already climbing. Is character or is climbing. And you can change that. I think it's way easier for us to be able to understand this code better. Going back to the event graph, I'm going to also change the is climbing here. There we go. Compile save. So when the character is climbing, let's go to our animation graph. So when the character is climbing, then we're going to switch state machines. Now, for us to be blocking the player from moving left and right, we're going to drag off this. Remember that you need to be on the movement input section, not the gamepad one, because there is also a gamepad input. So make sure that it's the PC inputs. So moving right, left, we're going to drag off this and type branch and get this climbing variable. So we need to know if the character is climbing. Then we don't need to use any animation movement input. So this is the function that controls the character, that makes the character to be able to move left and right. And this is the movement input, the function that makes the character to move forward and backwards. We also don't want that. We don't want the character to be able to move backwards in the forward, because it happens like this. It's not cool. And so what we want to do is just the same thing. Just copy, duplicate it, and then plug that in. And then if I press the directional keys, then nothing's going to happen. So that's very cool. That's very useful. So that's everything I gotta do here on the movement input. We've already finished the climb up ladder key input key. Start climbing input key. We already finished the begin play, and now we're gonna wanna climb up the ladder. So the first method I'm going to use is when we are attached to the ladder. If you press the Q or E on your keyboard, then you're going to be able to climb up. But depending on what key you press, then you're going to use different hand positions. For example, if the idle state right now it's the right hand is up, then the next animation that is going to be played is the left hand to be up. And the way you can do that, you're going to go to the third-person character and go left up. We're going to create a macro here. We're going to create two macros. The first one is going to be hand go left up question mark, and the second macro is going to be the opposite, which is going to be the right up. And we're going to drag the right up to the queue and connect this to here. Yeah, let's go inside our macro. We need inputs. All right, let's create a new variable called pressed Q question mark, and then you can drag and drop it. and then connect the pins here. And then back to the event graph. Now you're gonna be able to connect the pin here. So starting by when you press Q, the character is going to be up. So whether you press Q or E, the character is going to be climbing up, but for a short period of time. When you press Q, the character is going to be placing his right hand up, I think, or the other way. I don't know. Let's try the Q first. So let's click on inside this macro here. Now we need to create another variable which is going to be pressed E question mark. So I'm going to unpin this outputs here and let it here because this code is going to be a little bit big, but don't worry about it. And out of inputs, I'm going to add a branch and I'm going to add another variable called can hand go left. And another variable for can hand go right. Now we're going to drag and drop this variable here. And now we're going to drag and drop the pressed E. Check this on. Now after this, we're going to get a delay. I'm going to explain what this delay is for a little bit later. Now we're going to copy this, place it here. Now we want to disable this. Now I want to print a string and type go left up finished. Like this. And I'm going to choose the text color to be green, and the other for the right side I'm going to choose for it to be blue or red. Now you can drag and drop all these other variables here. And enable this one here. Now you can connect it to the outputs if you want to. If you want to continue your code after this, maybe you want to implement or improve your code after this one, so you can add the output here. So we're going to have this execution pin. It's an extra one. Now what we can do, I think we can actually copy everything here that is inside this macro, so you don't waste your time. So I can paste it in here, connect the inputs there and the outputs here. And we're going to change some variable placements here, as we are going to change hands. Then go right up. Now this is for the left. Wait, let me see. Go right up. Now we're going to drag and drop the right up, the left up actually. I'm going to drag and drop the left. Wait, what? I think this is here. And the left up is here. Yeah, go left up and go right up and go. Yeah, I think it's changed my, I don't know why. Yeah, it's right. So the left up goes like this, and then you can copy all the code and paste to the other macro. And we're going to change some values here. Now for the right up, we're going to I can hand go right. How about for the left up? Yeah. Let's drag and drop. Let's delete this. Go right. Let's delete this variable here. Can hand go right, and drag and drop the can hand go left to the condition here. Now going to the right up and go right up. Then we can check can hand go right if it's true. Then we're going to set this pressed Q to be off. This should be true. Now we're going to delete this, copy this, paste it here, and disable it. And change this to be right. Right up, finished. Let's choose it to be red. Now can hand go left to be true, and this should be false. Compile, save. There you go. Now we're going to get the references of these variables here inside our characters animation blueprint. Now let's go to the event graph. And let's drag off this and get pressed here. Pressed E, get pressed Q. You can also change these values, these variables. As on press Q, you can change Q is going to be for placing the hand to be on the right, up. So for pressing the Q, we're going to use it for climbing the ladder. So it's going to, we're going to make the character to place his hand on the top, this right hand up. So we're going to type pressed Q right. And E is for left. Compile, save. Now going back to our animation blueprint, we can promote this to a variable and promote this as well. Now I'm going to compile, save. And now let's go back to our ladder locomotion. And I have this animation here for climbing up. So this is ladder right up. Right up means that the character is going to place his hand on the top. That is going to use his right hand to place it first. And the left up as well, which is the opposite. The left hand is going to be up. So now let's drag and drop the right up and the left up to there. This is right up, now it's left up. Like this. Now we're going to firstly connect this ladder up here. Now this condition state, we're going to drag and drop our pressed Q right, get it, and we're going to connect it to the can enter transition. So when you press Q, then this animation is going to be executed. Now the transition, the duration of the blend time, we're going to choose it to be 0, because you don't want to get any transitions, blend transitions. I think it's going to be bad. I don't know, it depends on what you want. But in my case, I'm going to choose it to be 0. And I'm going to disable the loop animation that comes enabled by default on our engine. I'm going to compile, save, and let's test it out to see if it's working. So when you press Q, nothing happens. Let me see why. I think I have to attach the events queue. This has to be checked on instead, and this has to be disabled. I'm going to compile, save, and let's test it out again. So when you press Q, it doesn't work. Now we're going to go back to our animation blueprint, and let's drag this to here. Compile, and here on this transition state, double click on that, and I'm going to drag and drop the E left here. Now going back, I'm going to drag and drop the pressed Q right up. I'm going to compile, save. I think I have to disable the loop animation here. Comes by default. Enabled. Now I press play. Then if I press E, the character is going to put his hand, this right hand on the top. If I press Q, yeah, I have to make one more state condition state transition, and on this duration here, I'm going to choose .3. And on here, I'm going to drag and drop the E left to plug it here. File, save. And now if I press F inside this box collision, the character is going to grab it. And then when I press E, the character is going to place his hand, his right hand on the top. If I press Q, it's not working for some reason. Okay, here on the macro called hand go left up, we're going to enable this and disable this one. Let's go to compile, save, try again. When I press E, works like this. When I press Q, then the character is going to change hands. Now all we need to do is just move the character up, so that way the character moves vertically. So I think that's very much all you gotta do. So you gotta check this out. Another thing that you need to check out is the character location. So in my case, I took a while to figure out what's the correct position of the character, the correct location of where the character needs to be at. So make sure the character is at the right location. So for example, if I do it like this, the character is going to be far away from the letter, which is not going to be good. So you gotta check this out. And also the rotation. If you change the rotation here, it's going to also affect the character on the final result. So let's make our character to move up vertically. Let's get a branch. Actually, let's get a sequence first before getting a branch. And on then one, I'm going to get the branch and get the pressed E left. The condition, yeah. Okay. Let's name this E right is right, and the Q is the left. And now let's drag and drop our pressed Q left here. Let's get another branch. Get it from the then two. Connect to the condition. Now we're going to get actor location. And all we're going to do, we're going to affect the character Z axis because it's the one that controls the character up and down. So we're going to split the structure pin. Now we're going to set actor location. Now let's split the structure pin of the new location and add the return value here and return value Y to here. Now we're going to right click and type f_interp2. Now here, out of the return value z, I'm going to connect it to the, I'm going to add the z for the current, and cheer is going to be here. And the other one is going to go for the target. Check something here. Detail. If you click on the ladder blueprint, you're going to see a value. You're going to see this value here, footboard spread. If you have this ladder, this blueprint ladder, of course, we're going to see that they have the value of 32.76. So we can copy this value here and type it here, 76. Then you can compile, save. That's the distance of where the character is going to be launched. So the greater the value, the more the value is going to go up, the character is going to go up. So you gotta change this value depending on what you need. Maybe you have a bigger character model, or maybe you have different occasions that might happen. And you might want to change this value here for fitting your needs. Now here on the delta time, I'm going to drag off this. We could simply drag off this and go to the delta seconds on the event tick, but I find this to be more practical by using the get word delta seconds. It's way much easier. And here on the interpolation speed, I'm going to type 4, and 4, it's a good value. And depending on what value you put here on the interpolation speed, you might also want to change it here on the hand go left. So you have, I spent a while trying to figure out which value matches with the duration of when the character finishes placing his hand on the top. And I think this delay here is very good. This duration here is very good. It matches with the interpolation speed. So depending, if you want to change the interpolation speed to a greater or slower value, you're going to have to lower or increase the value that is inside here of duration. So, and you're also going to change, if you change in the interpolation speed, you're going to have to change the duration of this, the value of this duration of this delay here on the macro here on the left up, and also the other one. So keep that in mind. Now out of the return value, we're going to connect it to the Z location, and out of true here, we're going to connect it to the set actor location. I'm going to compile, save, and whenever we press the E, then it's going to execute this function, which is going to set our actor location to be up. And this F interpolation, it's just for smoothing the transition of the character going up. So we have a better, So we have a better smooth system. So when you press F inside our character, our box collision here, then when you press Q and E, as you can see, the character is just looping. It's like doesn't stop. So let's click on here, right click, and find the preferences. This variable here is not being set to false after it finishes playing, which is this one right here. That's weird. Okay, so let's delete this variable here. Let's copy this and paste it to the print string. So I am right now on the hand go right up macro. So you just gotta copy this variable and press Q left. We're going to disable it. I'm going to compile, save, and do the same thing on the hand go left up. macro. And then here, the pressed, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate this pressed E right. Duplicate it to be here. And disable this. Now I press on play. And press F. And then as you can see, it's working. But the problem is that our animation is just too much. It's too much fast. The values I'm going to place here is just going to be 0.7 for the letter left up, and right up 0.7 again. Let's try again. Yeah, a little bit better. But another thing is that this value here, I think it's not really good. I think 32.70, it's a good value. Let's try 0.6. Yeah, I think that's better. So yeah, you gotta adjust the, wait, let's start with the Q. Yeah, I think starting with the Q is the best option. So for example, when you are here, when you press F, and then the character hands and the idle station are also not so much good because it's glitching through the letter, but that's okay for the first time. When I press Q, then the character is going to smoothly place his hand on the letter. And then when I press E, then it's going to have a better performance. So as you can see, each time when our character steps up a letter, it's the character's hands are a bit up than the last one. So what you can do, you can just decrease this value here, maybe 6. And then you can just try these values here and see which one works better for you. And I'm gonna try 32.2. I think that's way better. .2 worked for me. Now the character is just glitching through the air. But that's okay, we're going to fix that later. So what we can do, so if we want to do this automatically without the need of us to press the Q and E keys every time. So how we can do this to be automatic? We can, out of then 0, we can get a branch, and then we're going to create a new variable called climb auto ? And then we can drag and drop to the condition. And so let's get a sequence out of true. And we're going to drag and drop the hand go left up macros, hand go left up and hand go right up. Now we're going to drag it up, drag it on the execution pins here, the sequence. And then we can activate this climb auto. So first, to be activating this auto climb, we're going to drag and drop the climb auto to here. Check this on and drag and drop the is pressed. Now we're going to duplicate this, and then on release, we want to stop. Now let's try again. Now auto climb, just gotta press the B and hold it. Now if I stop pressing B, then my character is going to stop. Now if I press it again, it's going to continue. So that's another option for climbing that I have developed. Now we want to make when our character reaches the top, we want to stop climbing. So I have this box collision here that I have added before. And whenever the character steps, I'm just delete this letter here. So whenever the character steps on this collision box here, overlaps this collision box, then we're going to trigger an event, which is going to be inside our character's blueprint. Actually, we're going to call it from the letter blueprint, and then it's going to be called from there. Then it's going to be executed inside our character's blueprint. Now, reached top. So this event I created. So if you want to create a new event, as I have mine here, you can go to add custom event and then hit enter. Then you can choose whatever name you want. Doesn't matter. Now I can compile, save, and as you have the event here, let's go back to our BP ladder. And as you can see here, I have added the box collision here in the top. Now scrolling down, you're going to be able to see that I have multiple events options that you can choose. So I'm going to choose let's choose the option begin overlap. Now it's going to generate this node for you. Now we're going to do the same thing from here. Just copy this code here, paste it here, and paste this to other actor. Now we want to call the event that is inside here. So how do we execute the event that is inside our character's blueprint, inside the letter blueprint? That's very easy. Now the first thing we're going to do, as we cast it to our character, set present character here, then we can grab it, get the reference, and say now it's just going to execute the event, which is, what is the name? Reached top. So we're going to type reached top. Now I'm going to call the function and plug it into true. Then that's all you got to do here. If you want, you can also execute a print string, so you can, just for testing purposes. Now this event is going to be executed as soon as the character overlaps the box collision there in the world. So what we're going to do here, we're going to get a branch. Now we're going to check if the character is already climbing. So if it's currently climbing, if it's true, then we can set is climbing to false. I'm not going to want to be climbing anymore. So let it to be false. And I want to disable also the climb automatic. Pressed Q. I'm going to set it. And press the U right. And that's everything I gotta do here. Now I want to set the capsule component to be set to be no collision. I'm going to set collision enabled to no collision. And we're also gonna play the montage. Now the montage that I'm going to play is this one of the characters. If you have another montage, you can play as well. It's gonna work. So I'm going to select the montage to play here, and I want to also set the delay. And this delay is going to depend on the duration of your animation. And in my case, I'm going to choose a 1.9 in my case. So if you have a different animation, you might want to change the duration of this delay here. And now I'm going to set movement mode, the classic one. And I'm going to set it to be falling. Now I'm going to want to set capsule component. I'm going to set collision enabled to collision enabled, querying physics. And I think that's everything. So let's see if it's working. Let's press and play here. You see it's working. Now I can go back and try the automatic climbing. All right, I think the feet glitches a little bit to the ground. I don't know if it's because I'm very perfectionist, but what you can do, you can just, or you can decrease the size of this cube here. You can also do that, or you can decrease the size of the letter length. So let's try again. Yeah, I think that works. Let's try again. I think the hand is a little bit glitchy. But if you start with the Q, I think it doesn't glitch. Let's see in slow motion. Of course, it's going to depend also on your animation quality. So yeah, I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comment down below, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye.